The planet Korlath was known across the galaxy as one of the most hostile places imaginable. Unpredictable weather, venomous wildlife, and shifting terrain made it a world only for the brave or the foolish. So, when an Earth expedition planned a visit, the alien team on Korlath was concerned. Humans, after all, were seen as fragile creatures, sensitive to extreme environments. Commander Ixalor and his crew prepared a thorough briefing. They discussed the deadly acid storms, venomous wind dancers, and unstable ground, expecting that the humans would need careful guidance to survive here. They had safety protocols, protective suits, and emergency protocols ready. The humans would surely be grateful for such precautions, at least that's what the aliens thought. But when the human shuttle landed, nothing went as expected. As the humans emerged, they didn't rush to put on any protective gear or listen for danger. No, they started setting up tents. Colorful, flimsy tents, as if they were on a pleasant outdoor excursion. The humans laughed, unpacked food, and even started roasting something white and fluffy over a fire. Commander Ixalor stared in disbelief. Were they having fun? He glanced back at his crew, equally stunned. Are they roasting sustenance? One alien muttered. Commander Ixalor shook his head. What were these humans thinking? They were acting as if this hostile planet was just another park on Earth. The humans swapped stories of Earth's wild landscapes, mentioning places like Mount Rainier, and laughed as if Korlath was barely a challenge. Commander Ixalor watched them in shock. Was this courage or madness? As the humans continued laughing and cooking over their fire, the alien team realized they might have misjudged just what these fragile humans were capable of. Commander Ixalor couldn't tear his eyes away from the scene. He had expected the humans to be cautious, perhaps even fearful, on a planet like Korlath. Instead, they were laughing, setting up what could only be described as a camp, complete with folding chairs, tents, and a cheerful fire flickering in the open air. The crew watched in stunned silence as the humans continued to prepare their setup with an almost playful spirit. Commander Ixalor tried to make sense of it. Perhaps this is a cultural ritual, he murmured to his crew. Some kind of morale-boosting activity to stave off fear? One alien squinted at the scene, leaning closer. Do they not realize the dangers? He whispered. This is Korlath. They can't just sit here exposed. The humans seemed completely oblivious to the risks surrounding them. They passed around odd, fluffy, white objects on sticks, roasting them over the fire, smiling as if they were recalling fond memories. The crew could barely comprehend the sight, these humans. They were behaving like this deadly planet was no more dangerous than a backyard gathering. As the humans laughed, they began sharing stories of Earth's own extreme environments. They spoke of mountains, deserts, and even massive storms, each story laced with humor and pride. Commander Ixalor felt a shiver of disbelief. They speak of storms as if they're entertained by them? He muttered. Is that courage or recklessness? The alien team exchanged nervous glances, realizing they might be witnessing a whole new approach to survival, a seemingly reckless yet fascinatingly resilient human one. Commander Ixalor had to admit, for better or worse, the humans weren't what he'd expected. As the humans continued their camping, the alien crew's anxiety only grew. They observed from a safe distance, whispering in concern as the humans roasted more food over open flames, chatting and even singing under Korlath's dangerous skies. Commander Ixalor's crew was tense, expecting disaster at any moment. One alien finally voiced what they were all thinking. Are they immune to fear? Or do they just not understand where they are? But as the humans went on, it became clear they knew exactly where they were. They just didn't seem to care. The crew watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as the humans stayed calm, smiling, and making jokes about the great outdoors as if they were simply on Earth. One of the humans was particularly animated, sharing a story about surviving something called a blizzard on a mountain. The others nodded in recognition, seemingly unfazed by the concept of facing down freezing storms. Commander Ixalor shook his head in disbelief. How could such a fragile species laugh at danger? They seemed to thrive on it. The alien team, so used to strict safety protocols, couldn't understand it. Every time they thought the humans would finally take precautions, the humans would surprise them with yet another casual act, like stretching out on folding chairs to enjoy the view. Commander Ixalor realized they might be witnessing something rare, a species that didn't just endure risk, but embraced it. The aliens exchanged wary glances, wondering if maybe, just maybe, these humans weren't quite as fragile as they'd thought. Just as Commander Ixalor was trying to process the humans' odd behavior, a sharp alarm sounded on his visor. The weather sensors had picked up an incoming Korlathian storm, a brutal one, notorious for its gale-force winds and acid-tinted rain. He immediately signaled his crew to take cover. "Humans!" he shouted over the communicator. "A storm is coming. Seek shelter immediately." To his disbelief, the humans did not run or panic. Instead, they calmly reinforced their tents, fastening stakes into the ground and securing lines as though that they were preparing for nothing more than a light breeze. One of them even called back, "Thanks for the heads up. We've got it covered." The alien crew huddled together in their fortified shelter, bracing for the worst. They peeked out, expecting to see the humans scrambling for their lives. But what they saw was astonishing. The humans, rather than retreating, were still chatting and even laughing, huddling close in their tents, as if it were just part of the experience. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a crash of thunder that shook the ground. Inside their shelter, the aliens flinched. But the humans? They remained calm, one even suggesting they roast marshmallows inside, as the wind howled around them. Ixalor couldn't believe his eyes. The humans were taking the storm as if it were a challenge to be met, rather than a threat to be avoided. One human even called out, "This is nothing compared to tornado season back home." As the storm raged on, the alien crew found themselves in awe, quietly admitting that, despite their reckless approach, these humans seemed to know exactly what they were doing. When the storm finally subsided, the alien crew cautiously emerged from their shelter, expecting to find the humans shaken, perhaps even wounded. But to their surprise, the humans were outside, calmly inspecting their tents and equipment, as if they'd just experienced a routine drizzle. Commander Ixalor could only stare. The humans were chatting excitedly about the thrill of the storm, comparing it to experiences they'd had back on Earth. One human mentioned it reminded him of a hurricane, while another laughed, saying they'd been through worse while camping in something called the Everglades. Their faces showed none of the fear or stress Ixalor had anticipated. Instead, they looked invigorated. Ixalor's mind raced. How could these beings, who were supposed to be fragile, so easily shrug off what his team considered a deadly threat? His whole life, he'd been trained to fear and avoid danger at all costs. But here were the humans, treating that same danger as an adventure to be savored. One of Ixalor's crew members spoke up, a hint of wonder in his voice. "Commander, maybe we've been looking at resilience wrong. These humans, they seem to draw strength from facing the unknown." Commander Ixalor nodded, feeling his perspective shift. Humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in the very chaos he and his team had always feared. Perhaps, he thought, there was something to learn from these creatures who saw storms not as obstacles, but as challenges to be embraced. Back at the command center, the alien team couldn't stop talking about what they had witnessed. Humans, with all their fragility, had somehow thrived in conditions that most species avoided. Commander Ixalor and his crew felt their understanding of survival turned upside down. In the debriefing, Ixalor proposed an addition to the Korlath exploration protocols. In high-risk environments, consult humans regarding improvised survival methods. It was a strange suggestion, but his team wholeheartedly agreed. Humans, they realized, had a unique way of turning challenges into something they could enjoy, even on a planet as harsh as Korlath. They even went as far as to reclassify the area where the humans had camped as a human adventure zone. It was a designation they'd never used before, but it felt fitting. After all, if humans could laugh, roast marshmallows, and swap stories on Korlath, maybe they were more resilient than anyone had realized. And as the alien team signed off, Ixalor made a mental note. Next time they approached Earth, it would be with far more caution and respect for a species that viewed danger not with fear, but with a smile.